Alright, hello, welcome back to this tutorial series where we're creating a character in Blender and getting it so it can be brought into UE4 and Unity with Morph and bone animation possible. We've got our character here. We've been modeling and UVing and now texture painting. Now we're going to rig him up. So let's go ahead and switch over to object mode. You'll see the texture will go away, and if it doesn't you can just switch it to solid. And let's save this as a new file. Go to this file, save, and I have a bunch of folders set up here. It's kind of just my format for doing this. Go to rigging, and we'll just name this model rigged 01. Go ahead and make a copy of that. Control Shift S plus enter. Now we've got a fresh, clean copy to work with. So what we want to do is we want to create a rig for this guy. We have the skeleton that we've been working off the whole time. For people who are new or just jumping on this tutorial to know how to do this, all you've got to do is just enable Rigify, go up to File, User Preferences, and then go to Add-ons, and type in Rig, right here, Rigify, and that's what you want. That's a tool you can use, then save user settings. Then what you can do is if you hit Shift-C, just to put it into the center of the view, and Shift-A, you can go under Armature and do Human Meta Rig. It won't look like anything happens, but that's because we're using the ideal kind of settings for UE4 and Unity, which is 0.01 and metric. You'll see if I hit period on the keyboard, there's actually a skeleton down here, but he's really tiny. We can't scale him up like normal because that messes with the bones. So we go into edit mode by hitting tab. Go down to here, go to 3D cursor, hit Shift C, and you'll see it'll kind of fling your view out, but more importantly it'll put the cursor right there. That way when you scale, it'll scale from that point. Then hit S 100, and you have an armature that's basically exactly what we have in here. So that's pretty cool. We don't need that though if you've been following along, but if you haven't been following along, you can use that. You can also go into the armature if your character has different proportions. Once you have the armature, just go into edit mode, hit T on your keyboard, go to options and turn on X-axis mirror, and now you can kind of adjust his bones to fit whatever body shape you need for your character. And feel free to do that as much as you want to get him to what kind of shape you need. So we don't need that for ours since we already have the skeleton built inside, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. And for people who have been following along since the beginning, just ignore all that. Cool, so you got your skeleton, you got your model. Let's go ahead and do some rigging. So grab your armature there, your skeleton, your armature, whatever you want to call it, and go over to here. Go to the Data tab. Scroll all the way down, at the very bottom you see it says a button that says Generate. You want to click that. Click that button, wait a couple seconds, boom, you see all these things appear. These are all the rig controls that allow your model to do what you need to do, basically, so you can control it just kind of like the strings of a puppeteer. If this didn't generate correctly, by chance, you need to go up to File, User Preferences, go to File, and then click on Auto Execution and Auto Run Python Scripts. You might get an error up here and it might not work otherwise. So just click that on and it should work. Otherwise, I'm not sure, you're going to have to do some research and kind of figure that out. But that should solve most of your issue if you're having trouble with that. So we've got our model here. And we've got our rig set up. So what do we need to do now? It has a setup where, by default, these are all the different layers that control all the different controls of the rig. You see there's all these different ones here, right? They all come together. If you hold down Shift, you can select them all. So, looks pretty good, right? These are all controls up here. All these are just controls for the bones. These ones as well. This one as well, which is another bone we'll fix in a second. But these ones here are the actual bones that deform the mesh. And we need to get rid of these because there's too many in here. See, there's ones for each one. But instead of meticulously deleting them and telling them which one's to map to what, we can just make it so that we'll use these bones, which are just like the original ones that we had in our skeleton. But in fact, they are not the same bones. Because if you look here, there's the rig and then there's the meta rig. They look exactly the same. That's confusing, right? But if I turn all these on, you'll see the difference. See how that's the rig we're actually going to use, and this is the meta rig. This is just the skeleton we had in there before. That was the template to generate this one. And it is an exact copy of the same bones inside, you see there. So since we've already generated this rig here, we don't need the meta rig, which is the skeleton we started with. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that and delete it. So what we want to do, like I was saying, is we want to make it so that instead of mapping to these bones, it maps to these bones, right? Before we do that, there's one little thing we need to take care of. And that is the bone that's down here, that's the actual root bone of the character. If you turn this on, you can see there's this little tiny thing here. That should be much bigger, like around this size. So let's go in, tab to edit mode, grab it, hit scale, and then 100, So it gets huge like that. And then if we hit tab again, you see there's this nice little ring around the outside of it. And that's what you'll animate to actually do root motion animation. Like if we go into pose mode, you can see that would do that, right? And moves the whole thing around. Great. So you have that set up. Let's turn off the relationship lines, which are all these little dots. Dotted lines. Cool. Like I was saying, we don't want these bones. We want these bones to be deforming. That way Unity will accept it as a humanoid character, which it won't otherwise. So what do? We go ahead and turn all these on. I'm not sure if that's absolutely required, but let's just do it for the sake of it. And we want to, let me turn on my screencast keys. That way you can see what I'm typing. Hopefully you could follow along so far. We want to remove those bones. So how do we do it? We're going to use a special script that someone else has already figured out in a really informative tutorial. Blender Rigify and a Unity Mechanism by this guy. He's awesome. Go check out his channel and subscribe and stuff. Because this guy figured it out. He has a script that you can download from here, or you can just get the text of from GitHub. Copy this into a text file and replace the .txt extension with a .py, and this will do the trick. Or you can just download from here, or I'll probably have a download link for you in the description as well. And this will run what you need to actually solve the bone thing, solve the bone problem. So let's go back, and I have that already downloaded, the Python thing downloaded to my desktop, basically this in a file. So I'm just going to go ahead and select my rig, go to this little button, go to Text Editor, Open. Under here, I'm going to go to Extra Content, and go to Rigify script.py, and inside it, all it has is this text. Once you've opened that up, all you got to do is hit Run, and there you go. Now, essentially, these bones should be gone, as far as we're aware. These bones, they're still there, but they're not doing anything now, which is exactly what we want. Now we can skin the model. And when we skin it, it will be deforming on these bones. Great. So let's go ahead and just turn all these back on. And we've got that. Let's go ahead and skin the model. Grab the model, the actual mesh of the model, then grab the rig, and then hit Control-P, and go Set Parent to Armature Deform with Automatic Weights. That works pretty well. So if we go to Pose Mode now, we should see that these animate. See how it moves the arm? Let me just switch out to individual origins. It moves the arm around, which is exactly what we want. You see these extra bones that do other weird things. If you turn off these two right here, it looks a bit more normal. You can move the bones around, and you can see it does a pretty good job of animating it. If you want to adjust this further, you can see how the shoulder isn't perfect there. I'll just hit Alt-R-G-S, and that'll put that back to where it started. You can go back to Object Mode and grab the mesh, then go to Weight Paint, and now you can paint in the weights of each bone. So blue means no weight, red means a lot of weight. So if you see, if I move this up, sorry, it has a list of all the bones, all these org bones that are bound to the skin. So you see, like, I can select the hand, and there's not like a lot of weight on that, but there's some on the finger there, and then like there's go to the head. You can see how that's bound. You might want a little more there. So you're gonna add like more weight in, and to make it so that it controls more of the body. You can tweak that as much as you like, but this is the time to do it, and that'll help you kind of do what you want to do with your model. So pretty cool. Go back to object mode, and now we've got that set up. So pretty cool. We've got the model basically rigged now. We've got the root bone scaled up. This guy scaled up right here. We also ran the script that made it so it uses the bones over here for deforming the model and not the ones here. What we need to do now is we want to delete these extra bones. Since they're not really doing anything, these deformed bones are just here, and we can just clean them up because they don't do anything. So just go ahead and go over to them, go into edit mode, grab them and hit X and delete the bones. And just to make sure that we didn't do anything wrong, let's go ahead and just check that our model is still bound to our mesh. Sometimes it's just good to check stuff for sanity reasons. You see it still deforms. These extra ones here just don't matter. Cool. Go to object mode. We still got those pose bones. Next thing to do, clean up, is all these widget bones. See all these WGT? We don't need them for anything what we do right now. So all you got to do is turn on all these layers, type WGT, and in this little window here, just tap A while you're hovered over to it. No, I'm sorry, just click into the view here and tap A. So that way you can get it all, selected. Double tap A sometimes. Control click here, not on the text, and then that way you don't try to edit it. Then right click and hit delete. Now you can see it's nice and clean. We just have one single thing in the scene, and that's just rig. Perfect. So that's what we want basically. We've got, like I said, we got the root bone scaled up. We've got the bones mapped correctly. We deleted all the stuff out of the scene that we needed to. Now we're working pretty clean. There's one last thing we need to do, and this is another little trick, another kind of thing that needs to be done just to make it perfect. What we want to do is when we export this, sometimes it gets exported with a second root bone. So it's like a second bone that's kind of the basis of all the other bones. That's on top of this guy here. And it's called like armature. So the actual armature itself gets exported as another bone. We don't want that because we want to do root motion. You want to have control over root motion. So you want this to be able to move the character around and not have another one that's kind of confusing or getting in the way. So how do we do that? Well, there's another really cool, useful thing online that I found. It's a guy on the UE4 forums. Let me just get it up right here. I'll show it to you. A list of links here. And he made he modified the actual exporter in Blender. That way it will export this perfectly without the extra root bone. And this only works in Blender 2.77, I think 2.77, 2.77A, and maybe B as well, 2.77B. But anyway, yeah, here's the guy right here. So check this out. I think it's Vernocchi, and he's got this special fix he made right here. So go ahead and just download that and put it in a folder and just be aware of where it is. When you're ready, once you've downloaded that, check this guy's channel out. By the way, he has a game he's working on. Deserves credit for making this awesome stuff. Check out his game and look at all his stuff. Right here, this is what you want to download. So download that, put it in a folder, and just unzip it. It should be a zip file. Once you've got that, I'll show you what to do with it. Let's just use this file. Let me get it up here. It should look like this. So you've got this little folder. This is I just unzipped it. IO scene FBX 227 fixed. Then you've got IO scene FBX, and inside it you should have a bunch of files. I think in my case I I didn't actually bring a version over that had files in it. So let me just put that right in the right folder right now. Delete that. Yeah, as you see, something like this. Inside it says IO scene FBX, and inside that, once again, sorry about that. That's an empty one. Let me grab a zip. That way it's exactly the same. Silly on my part. Let's ignore all that. So this is the zip file that you'll download. Extract the files from the download. Right? And you got the NAR folder. Then you got inside that. These are the files we're going to copy into the special folder in Blender that should fix the exporter to not export an extra root. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Go back to your scene with your rig model. Control-Shift-S. Plus, and we'll add just a 3 to the end. That way we have a new model to work with, and hit enter. Now we'll quit out of Blender, and we'll put this to the side, and now we're just going to go into our Blender installation. So wherever you have it installed, probably by default you have it under program files, but wherever you have it, this is kind of the method. So go to C drive, go to program files, go to Blender Foundation, Blender 2.77, scripts, add-ons, and go all the way down, and then you've got, I believe it's right here, IO scene FBX. See how that matches the name of this? What you want to do is go in there, and your files might look different, but this is all you want to do. This is the extra special folder, the new one that we downloaded. That's right here. Go inside that, and this is the one inside the Blender folder, 2.7 scripts, whatever. Go inside this and delete everything. All that's gone. So inside your actual add-ons, FBX, nothing there. Now take the files from the scene, the fix we have that we downloaded, copy them, and paste them into that folder in Blender, and you'll need administrator permission. Go ahead and hit continue. There you go. You've got it all brought right into there. Now your FBX will be fixed. Remember, this is 2.77 only. I think 2.77, 2.77A, and maybe 2.77B. I'm not sure. We'll see how it works out. Quit out of that. Quit out of that. Let's open Blender back up. Open Model Rig 03. And now we have our character nicely into our scene. What we're going to do now is we're going to see if this exports. So we finally have our character ready that we're going to see if we can export this into UE4 and if we get any trouble. So hopefully if we don't get any trouble, but if we do, we might be able to kind of solve it, and maybe working through those problems will kind of show you how to solve some of your own problems as well. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be just straightforward. So I'm just going to save this again. We're going to File, and now Export FBX. And mind you, I have everything selected with A. I turn screencast keys back on. I think when I quit, it turned off. Grab everything with A. Export FBX. Cool. Here's kind of where some other magic comes into play. We have the Export FBX. So what are the settings we want to get this in exactly right? First thing is we want selected objects, so that way whatever you're selected on is going in and nothing else if you have extra files. Then we want the armature and the mesh, armature and mesh. We can also add other if we want, but this will probably be fine. I think other is just good to have included in there. I don't think it really does anything, so maybe we'll leave it on. Won't hurt anything. Cool. We got that. Go to geometries. Apply modifiers. Absolutely turn this off. We don't need it right now, but we will need it shortly in the next tutorial. If you look right here when it pops up, see it says warning prevents exporting shape keys. When we create shape keys in the next little tutorial, we're going to need this off. So we're going to create these settings right now. That way we have them set up for next time. Apply modifiers is off. Smoothing to face. Otherwise UE4 will give you trouble, I think. Armatures, we want only the deform bones. So those are only the ORG bones, the bones that we have that we set up. That way it doesn't export all the extra like control bones and all that. Don't need leaf bones either. Go to armature and turn it on to root. That'll set, I think, what is this for? That's the node type, so that's like, I think, like where the root bone is selected. And we don't have any animations, so turn that off. And go ahead and just save this as, we'll call it Blender to Game Engine. No anim. Now you'll have that preset forever, and you can just select it from right here. So you have some other ones here, just ignore them. Blender to Game Engine, no anim. Now we can go ahead and go up, and we'll go to Export Tests. That's a folder I created. And we'll just make this model, rigged, export, 01. Go ahead and hit export, and your model should be exported. So cool, we've got a model exported. We don't have the morph targets in yet, but we will if this works. Let's see how it imports into the engine, if everything goes all right. Cool, let's go ahead and do Epic Games Launcher. So we'll open up Epic Games, and we'll create a new little project for it. And we'll see once this imports into the engine if everything's working right. If there's a couple little errors, we'll be trying to fix them. But for now, it'll be just a test to see how it runs. If we can get everything in, and if it gives us trouble, we'll kind of run through those steps. So we'll just let this load up, and this should load into, I think, the project selection screen rather than actually the editor itself. I'll give that a moment. Yep, I'll create a new project. I'll just create a new one on my desktop, blank. This is all fine. Call it my project, and this will create a project that we can actually work off of. Okay, so here we go. Basic UE4 scene, one of the coolest engines in the world. Let's go ahead and do some stuff. Import to game. So we just right-click there, import to game. Desktop, my little folder full of stuff, and we want the export. Model rig export 01. So let's see what comes up. Import as skeletal, import as mesh. Okay. For now, we don't have any morph targets established, so we're just basic mesh. We're going to see if this works before we go further. We got all this. We don't need the material textures, but we can leave those on. Let's see what happens. Alright, look at that. So all those come in. We don't get any errors. We don't get any warnings. Just straight on through, which is really what we want. Let's open up the model. Looks pretty decent to me. No like shading issues or anything like that. How about the skeleton? Root is the base. See all these other little bones? We go to like hips. You can see as I rotate this, it's a one-to-one mapping. If your bones were wrong or at the wrong scale, all of this would like not work correctly. It would be like you have to rotate the bone like 1,000,000 times to like rotate just a small amount. So this looks like it just worked great. That's excellent. Wow, okay. I wasn't even sure if that would work great the first time, so good news. We've got that. We've got our model in the scene. Let's check the fat model of it. This is the physics model. This should give you a pretty decent model off the bat. Let's have a look. That's pretty good. Normally you got to tweak this further to make it look really good, but as far as the basics, I mean, that's pretty darn good. It's not flipping out. It's not flailing around. We can delete that little thing off the root there. Pretty darn good. We go to no gravity. See, it doesn't completely flip out. It just kind of floats a little bit. That's just these things clipping into each other, the collision. Good. So that imported perfectly into UE4, which is exactly what we want. Now let's try it in Unity. Like I said, if you have trouble with this, maybe just do some research and do some form checking on UE4 forums. There's a couple things to figure out, but if it's not working this way, following the tutorial exactly, I can't really say. There's so many things that could be problematic that would kind of relate to it. So let's go ahead and try it in Unity now. Let's let this load up. It should be a little bit different, but the process will be fairly similar. Create a new project, create on my desktop, and called New Unity Project. Go ahead and let that all open up. And now we got a new scene here. Let's take it out of 2D mode. Click on the camera. We'll take the game scene, we'll put it down in this corner, that way we don't need it. If your view doesn't look like mine, you can just kind of switch between these to get it what you want. I guess you can go to wide, that'll be a good base point, just so it's our views are kind of similar, so you know what I'm looking at. Take that out of 2D mode, yours is in 2D mode. And now we can just import the model right in. Do import new asset, go to desktop, Blender files, extra content, go to export test, model rig, export 01. Model comes in, he looks pretty good to me, no major issues apparent. And if we open up the window for the console, let's see if we go to that console, put him right there, no errors, no warnings, no nothing on the import, that's a good sign. We can go over to humanoid and hit apply. You see that little checkbox, that's a good sign that things are working. Here's kind of the final check. Let's see how it looks under the configure tab. Go ahead and save your scene, that way you have it. And let's see what this looks like. Just make sure everything looks pretty. Excellent. Okay, so this is the most finicky part. See all the green bones? All the bones that we should have are there. These ones actually don't get mapped in Unity. And we've got them all there, just working exactly as we want. You got the arm bones, you got the head bone, and if you look under this screen here, if I can just make a little more real estate for myself over here, screen real estate that is. I don't know how to make this any. Let's put this over here. There we go. All these are lit up and they're just exactly what you want, right? So you got your shoulder, you got your hips, everything right. It's perfect, exactly what you want there. So that's pretty much a pretty good import under that. And yeah, so we got them. Go ahead and go to muscles and settings. We can go to scene, and now you can see how it'll show like if he's working right, all your rigs right. So you'll kind of move him around, and this will kind of give you a hint as to like something's like weighted wrong, you know. You can get a good sense. But overall, it's weighted pretty good. You can kind of twist and roll in and out. And my favorite is pretty cool. You can do the fingers in and out. If you can zoom in on that. Roll finger in, roll finger out. So you see that our grip is pretty accurate. This is a pretty good skeleton to work off of. The fingers don't clip into themselves all that much either, which is really nice. So hit reset all on that, hit done, and then under animations, take no animation, apply, rig, and now we can bring them right into the scene, and it looks great. So we've got no issues on either one of these rigs. We go back to Unity, or I'm sorry, UE4. You bring him in, and see how the scale is perfect with the chairs. That's what we were working so hard to kind of get the scale right. Doesn't get messed up, doesn't get too tall or too small. But yeah, so there we go. We've got a character importing into UE4 and Unity. This is just the basic kind of test, but if it's gone well up to this point, it's a really good sign. So thanks for watching. Up next, we're going to set up morph targets, and I'll show you how those kind of work. We'll do another test import, and then beyond that, we'll do some animation. So thanks for watching, and if you like this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.